Federal election 2025 turned out to be a two-horse race with smaller parties taking a big hit, but they aren't giving up, and some of those parties do have some interesting ideas. Today we're joined by Maxime Bernier, the outspoken leader of the PPC, the People's Party of Canada. Good to have you with us, Maxime.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be with you today.
You bet. Well, first of all, congratulations on winning support from your party members at your leadership review. However, of course, the last election, big disappointment for the PPC, getting less than 1% of the vote compared to 2021, where I believe it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 5%. So, of course, I mean, any party going over this last election has to take a look back and, what happened. So, any thoughts?
Yes, absolutely. We lost 700,000 votes, like you just said, from 5% in 2021 to around 1%, less than 1% at this election. So we are doing a debrief with our candidates and our organization across the board. But like you said in the beginning, it was tough for every small political parties, the Bloc Québécois, the NDP, the Green, us, because that was not a conventional election. It was mostly a referendum on who will be the best one to deal with President Trump, Polyev or Carney. And so that was that the other, we wanted to have a debate about, for example, mass immigration, multiculturalism, because mass immigration, about 65% of Canadians are saying enough is enough. We need to stop that. But that was not part of the national narrative of the national debate during the last campaign. So it was very difficult for us to have our ideas being debated. But also, what was a little bit difficult for us also was the fact that we didn't have a candidate in every riding. We had last time we had about 320 candidates on 343 ridings, and this time we had about 250 candidates. So in some ridings, people were not able to vote for the People's Party. So we had 0% as an average in a riding when you don't have a candidate. So because of that, I think, instead of having 2% of the vote, we went down to less than 1%. We are addressing that right now. We are building riding associations all across the country. And I can tell you that we'll be ready, and every Canadian will have an opportunity to vote for the People's Party at the next election.
Okay. Are you planning any policy changes, any strategy changes?
No, no, because I like your question about policy changes. We are doing politics differently, and that's why we don't do any polling, we don't do any focus group, and we don't have a new electoral platform at every election. That's why when we created that party, we created based on ideas, four principles: individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect, and fairness. And all our policies are in line with these principles, but it's always the same one. And so there's no surprise with us. What I said at the first election for us in 2019, I said the same thing in 2021, and that will be the same agenda at the next election, maybe when it will happen.
All right. Now you were actually just in Alberta, and I think you were actually in that in the same riding where the by-election is taking place with Pierre Poilievre, right? What are you hearing from Albertans? What are the issues here?
Oh, people are fed up. Albertan, you're tired of what Ottawa is doing to you, what the federal government is doing to you. But also, I must add to other provinces also. You wanted to be respected. And that's what I said with our candidate in that by election when I was there, the 1st of July, July 1st, with Jonathan. And I told people over there, if you want real changes, send a strong message at that by election and tell Polyev that you're fed up, that he's taking your vote for granted. Polyev won't withdraw from the Paris Accord. Polyev won't have any discussion about the equalization formula all the equalization payments coming from Alberta. We want to cut that by half, and we want to have a new formula. Polyev won't speak about the radical decentralization that you want and that you need. A smaller government in Ottawa with more autonomy for Alberta and other provinces. So we are having the real debates at that by-election, and I understand that Albertans are frustrated, and I can see I've met some separatists over there, and I was with them. And when you have 30% of the population who are looking for separation, there's a problem there. But Carney and Polyev are not addressing the challenges that you have, and we are as a party.
Okay. Quick question on, of course, pipelines, a big issue right now with Prime Minister Carney and so forth. Do you think that he'll ever lift the West Coast tanker ban or lift the emissions cap or actually, ever build a coast-to-coast pipeline? Do you think that'll happen with Carney or no?
But all that, it is part of our platform, the People's Party. We said that in 2019 that we need pipelines. We need to, abolish all these legislations who are against the prosperity of Alberta, but the prosperity of our country. I don't think that Carney is speaking on both sides. Sometimes he's telling Daniel Smith that everything is okay and we will do big projects like pipeline, and other times he's saying the opposite. But to have the pipeline, actually, the federal government has full authority and full jurisdiction for that. It's under the Constitution. You can have a pipeline, impose a pipeline on provinces who don't want that. It's under the federal jurisdictions and under the Constitution. But Polyev and Carney are not speaking about that. It's important, and I hope that we'll have that today.
So,
One day.
so you're saying the federal government has the power to do so, but at this point, of course, Carney is saying no, they would not impose this on anyone, and I think we all know that he's talking about Quebec. Now, you know Quebec very well. There has been a change, I think, in public support, sentiment, more towards, we're maybe more favorable to having a pipeline. But would they put enough pressure on the provincial government to actually say yes to that, do you think?
But there's a consensus in Quebec for pipelines. The provincial government, the Legault government, is listening to the radical environmentalists. We have pipelines coming from the port of Montreal to the airport. Trudeau Airport, downtown Montreal. Pipelines are safe, are secure with new technology. It's safer to transport oil and gas by pipelines than by train or trucks. So Quebecers are not stupid. What is happening is the Legault government is listening to these radical environmentalists, and I think you have a consensus in Quebec for that. But if you don't have a consensus in Quebec for that, the federal government can go ahead for that, and that's our position. I said that in 2019 and in a French TV at the TVA, and the question was, Bernie, are you ready to impose a pipeline on Quebec? I said yes. I will do it. It's too important for the unity of this country and the prosperity of this country. And you can speak with Canadians and Quebecers about that, about the security and the safety of pipelines, and having a real discussion. But the Quebec government doesn't want to have that discussion with Quebecers. It's just listening one side and the radical side.
Well, the federal government is continuing to try to make a deal with the U.S. here to get around tariffs and get a good trade deal going. Recently, they dropped their digital tax on big tech firms after pressure from President Trump. Do you think that was a good decision or no?
Yes, that was the right decision. But what they must do now is the supply management. But Carney and Polyev, I can tell you that right now, they won't be able to have a deal with President Trump if they don't abolish the cartel in supply management, the cartel in dairy, poultry, and eggs. Polyev and Carney are protecting these cartels, and that must end. They just passed a legislation in Ottawa saying that the federal government cannot discuss the abolishing of that cartel during the negotiation with President Trump. That's crazy. That's stupid. We won't be able to have a deal if we don't put that on the table. And both Poilievre and Carney are not working in the best interests of Canadians by doing that.
Okay, I know there's a lot of votes, of course, in Quebec on the line on that particular issue. Well, Bill C-5, of course, the major projects bill, has been passed into law at this point. So some believe this is, of course, it's going to speed things up, and that's probably true. But it perhaps gives too much power to the federal government to override parts of the law. Your thoughts on that?
I think altogether it's a good bill.
Okay.
We need to have these projects, but we'll see. But you're right about that. In the bill, there's some powers and that the federal government can have. I don't know if they will use it or not, but we needed that bill, and now we'll see what will be how Ottawa will use these new powers and authority that Ottawa has under that bill.
Okay, well, let's talk about Bill C-2 briefly here as well. And that's the strong borders, kind of an anti-crime bill. Some argue that the bill makes us safer. Does it? And also, does it infringe on our privacy too much? A lot of people are concerned about that.
Yeah, and I'm concerned about that also for the privacy. You can have a bill that would protect our borders and fight crimes and illegal crossing of fentanyls and drugs without having all these sections and clauses on privacy. We'll see what will happen, but we still have some concern with that bill.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I just, again, cash, a $10,000 cash deal would be criminal. I mean, this is going to affect charities, churches, and these kinds of things. So hopefully they won't get passed as is. Hopefully there will be some amendments that would just be common sense, you'd think,
I hope, yes, I hope that the opposition, the conservative, will do their role as opposition, and fighting for some changes. And you're right, $10,000 today, it's not like it was, 20 years ago. With that inflation, inflation is everywhere, and $10,000, I think the threshold is very too low, and we need to change all that.
You had mentioned earlier your concerns about immigration. That was a big part of your party platform. Your thoughts there? I mean, immigration, we still got a lot of it happening. So how would you approach it?
Our position is a moratorium, a pause on immigration, no more immigrants for a couple of years, the time to integrate all these immigrants who came to Canada. And at the same time, our position is on the international students. We must lower the numbers of international students that we have in this country. Actually, now colleges and institutions are using that to be more profitable, and university also. That must not be the case. So we need to drastically reduce the number of foreign students. That's our position. And on the temporary foreign workers, I think we must be more severe about that. And it's okay for the agricultural sector, but now they're using that, and you have young Canadians who it's very difficult for them to have a job, a summer job. So we need to stop all these illegals, immigrants, and migrants who are entering in our country, and at the same time we need to stop the deportation. Actually, this year we'll have between 1.5 million and 1.5 million and 5 million migrants that are in Canada where their permit will expire. We don't know the number. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they are. We need to put all the resources over there to be sure to find them. And when you're here without a valid permit, you must go back to your country. And if not, you must be deported. That's our position.
Okay. All right, I'm running out of time here. When do you think the next election is going to happen here? Is a minority government? Will they last 4 years or no?
Yeah, it's a minority government, only 3 seats. But as you know, Elizabeth May is always voting in line with the Liberals, so they need 2 seats. I think, that government can govern for at least 2, 3 years, but we never know. But for us, the People's Party, we have to be ready for an election in 2 years. That is our strategic plan with with organizations across the country and candidates in every riding.
Well, thanks so much for being with us today, Maxime. Appreciate that.
I appreciate it. Have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Maxime Bernier, the leader of the People's Party of Canada. I'm Paul Arthur on behalf of all of us at BCN. Thanks for watching.